Yo people, welcome back to the YouTube channel. You already know what time it is. It's time for that video where I make it specifically, emphatically, critically clear which manager I would have to replace Graham Potter as of right now if he was to be sacked by Chelsea Football Club. Now, I'm going to do this very simply. I'm going to put it in three categories. The first one is a bronze, silver, gold in terms of preference, top three managers that I would have, and then you will know my chosen one. And of course, the next category is the wide-spoken Chelsea kind of options that the fan base have been speaking on, and I am going to put them in red X's, red boxes, absolute no-nos. I either think they're too unrealistic or I do not want them anywhere near the football club, and I'll explain briefly why, and they'll be in the second part of the video. And then of course, we have the unspoken of, the unheard of, the unknown quantities that only the brightest, only the football nerds, only Christopher Thabz, the director of football, will maybe know about these guys in depth. The Sporting Lisbon manager, the Celtic manager has been getting a bit of prop on the TL recently. I don't watch these clubs religiously, and I don't watch them often enough or even watch them at all, to be honest, unless it's Europe, to be speaking and endorsing and promoting them. So I'm not going to. If Christopher Thabz appoints someone that he's unearthed from nowhere, then fantastic, that's up to him. But for me, I'm going with bait names that I've seen 90 minutes of. I've seen their clubs, they're highly spoken of, they're top managers, and everybody knows who they are, and we've all watched them enough to gauge an opinion. So I want to start with third place. Third place is Luis Enrique. Now, he is a manager that is obviously very successful in the 14-15 season in particular with Barcelona, obviously winning a lot of trophies over there, and really for me underspoken about his struggles at Celta Vigo and Roma. Of course, the highlights were Barcelona, and that's where the Messi, Suarez, Neymar front three kind of came to fruition. Now, that is a concern. That is a concern because, you know, his only time of real success, because obviously we just saw him at the World Cup and it wasn't a great campaign from Spain. Very highly possession-based football, of course. His most successful spell is with three generational forwards. So, and a great team, of course, but I need to see you go through the levels and the gears and to know that you can handle it with a normal team, and a team with talent, a team with potential, but not generational forwards. And that does, for me, work against you slightly, because those are incredible footballers. Now, what does work in his favour, that is why he's on this list, is not only because he tries to play a free-flowing, attacking brand of football, a possession-based coach. It is more his way or no way. He's not going to play pragmatic. He's not going to play lump it, slump it. He's not going to play defensive. And that is, for me, a little bit of a negative, because especially if you're coming in right now, I do think you have to be adaptable to the situation, and to instill what you want to instill mid-season is very, very difficult. Maybe in the summer, he is the type of manager that would make a lot more sense, and I would not be absolutely opposed to. Definitely not. He has shown top talent. But like I said, there are question marks because we've only seen what he's done at Barcelona with that team, and we haven't really seen it outside of that to an elite level. But he does use a lot of young players. He did bring the Pedris, the Gavis, the Baldes, the Nico Williamses, all of these guys, Fati, to the Spanish national team for the World Cup, and left some pretty big experienced names out. Now, is he going to have the guts to do that at club level? I would assume so. If you can do that there, why not here? But you know, it will be interesting to see him develop young talent and to improve them, coach them, and that is something that I want to see us do. And there's a lot of managers that didn't make this list because I don't believe they can coach and improve and develop young talent, which is exactly the pool which we have entered in this last window to take young players and to push for the next few years. Yes, we want instant results to a certain degree. Yes, we would like to win some cups and then challenge for the league later on. And yes, we would like to grow and step up in those ranks. But we need to develop players to do that, and coaching is a huge part of that, and that's something he can do. Now, in second place, I'm going with Hansi Flick. And I think for me, Hansi Flick is more an instant success type of person. Again, this is why he's second, is that not because of the success, no, but because after making, in that 2020 COVID season, Bayern Munich the most feared team in Europe. I remember they rocked up to Stamford Bridge and absolutely slapped us. It was a brilliant performance. Again, a manager that kind of favours that 4-2-3-1, but can move to the back three. Did put Kimmich into the three, and then use Thiago, and obviously Davis was ripping it down the left-hand side, and Muller and the Lewandowskis and Gnabry's, etc. They were very devastating going forward, committing a lot of bodies forward, pressing from the front, winning the ball high up the pitch, and capitalizing. Likes to play a high line, German manager, so you get the gist. That's kind of the template. And like I said, in that 2020 season, made Bayern Munich devastating. Now, he's got ties to Lowe from working with him at the World Cup in 2014. Hoffenheim he was at as well. But for me, the reason why I can't put him at the top is because, again, I've only got that 2020. I've only got that small window, much like Enrique, that small window to really judge him and say, okay, you did elite things there, but over a wide time span, what have I got to work with? For Germany, a poor campaign at the World Cup. Again, same group as Enrique, and a poor exit, out of the group stages. Not to say that they didn't actually play some good football at times with Musiala, and we saw Kai Havertz in the last game step it up, etc. But it was a poor campaign. So again, now he does sometimes revert to that three at the back with the 1-4-2 in game, and we've seen midfielders slot into the back three, and then, like I said, he'll push a Davis forward like he did, and commit bodies forward, and Muller, Lewandowski became the front two, etc. So he's a manager for me that, with Christopher Vell as a German kind of maybe director of football, there could be a tie there. But the reason why I have him in second also is because there's a slight unrealistic element to him, is the fact that he's with Germany still. After having a poor World Cup, he's still there, and the Euros is in Germany. So I do feel like there's a hint of unrealistic expectation that he would leave Germany to come to Chelsea. I do think he wants to be at Germany. I do think that's a potential even dream job for him. He's literally managing his own national team. It's not easy to just walk away from that. And I do believe that, yeah, he is probably looking to stay there for the Euros. So he is in second for me because there's a slight unrealistic side to that. Now, top tier choice, number one, before you all go crazy, is Pochettino. That's right. I have put Pochettino as my number one choice. Now, I think all of these managers, I think Flick and Enrique in particular would definitely have to be more of a summer move, especially Enrique, because the football he plays is very specific. I think Flick could come in now, but again, probably more so to the summer because he's never managed in the Premier League. Pochettino, again, it would be a preference for him to come in the summer, but he is unemployed, and so is Enrique, so they're a little bit more realistic than Flick in that regard. There's no payment to have to pay, silly boy. There's no release clause. There's no money to slump up front. These guys are unattached, whereas Flick, you'd have to probably pay out as well. So that's another factor to include. Pochettino is unemployed. And for me, people will gasp when I say Pochettino, but I think he's very, very overly criticised and underrated. I think this is a manager that at Southampton showed what he could do taking over from Atkins. He used Ricky Lambert. He had Lallana as his wide playmaker. We've seen him do the same. Then with Tottenham, with Eriksen, same there with Neymar at PSG, obviously to a much higher level. He's a manager that is, for me, a lot more pragmatic, even though he does try to play a good style of football and press from the front. Defensively, his Tottenham team was always very good. Southampton as well, defensively very solid. He then took them away from that relegation battle, playing a very good football, beating actually City, Liverpool and Chelsea in the span of 2 months with the likes of Davis in midfield, and then, like I said, elevating it to qualify for Europe. And that Southampton team ended up getting ripped apart by Liverpool in their recruitment. And we all know the Manes, the Lamberts, the Lallanas, the Kleins, the Luke Shaws for Manchester United, the Wanyama's for Tottenham, the Schneiderlins. It was such a good Southampton team. And he showed that he could work with young players. Luke Shaw was one of those. And again, we are trying to develop young players. So he fits into that mold. He is a coach. And I feel like we do need a coach. All of these guys are coaches as well. I wouldn't go for a manager who doesn't really coach, especially when you have a young team who don't really know how to play right now. They need to be given a system, and they need to be taught, teached, and trained. I think if we had elite level players across the board, the Drogbas, Lampards, Terry's, Carvalhos, they don't need maybe a coach. They need a manager to manage them, and they'll go and ball out. We've seen that many times before. But this young team that we've brought in from January needs a manager that is good at youth development. And across the board with Pochettino, you've seen that with Harry Kane, with Dele Alli, with Kyle Walker, with Lallana, with Luke Shaw. He has improved and created players and put them on pedestals. And that's something he could do with the Mudryks, with the Enzo Fernandezes. I expect him and would think he would get the best out of these guys with his coaching. Now, again, people will say the negative. Let me be completely fair, because I've done negatives for everybody. I do think Pochettino has to kind of override that kind of, bottling narrative. We saw in the Champions League final with Tottenham, he used a Harry Kane up front when he potentially wasn't completely fit, overplaying a Lucas Moura who had scored a hat-trick the game before against Ajax. And again, in cup competitions, there's been times where he could have maybe sealed the deal. I do think, though, he overachieved massively at Tottenham, and that is not spoken about enough. I've spoken about Southampton, obviously Espanyol before that. But at Tottenham, he literally had to play games at Wembley. He did not get a transfer budget for many years. They did not bring in players. They did not elevate and continue to improve that squad. And he continued to keep motivating, which is something that people don't speak about and really should do. Chelsea have had serious potential motivation issues. He motivated the same squad of players year in, year out to go again and continue to keep improving at Tottenham and to continue to keep qualifying for Champions League to the point where they got into a title race and even reached a Champions League final. And we need to understand that that's Tottenham. I don't want to take the piss here, but we just saw them lose to Sheffield United. It's in the crest. It's in the chest. It is ingrained in the fibre, in the cloth. They do not win. So for me, Pochettino not winning at Tottenham is not a failure. Of course, it would have been a bonus if he did, but Conte has not won there. Mourinho has not won there. Nobody has won there. And for me, I judge managers based on the job that they do at the club and the expectation alongside, and not just by trophies. Sarri is a great example of that. He did not win any trophies before coming to Chelsea, and then he picked up a Europa League. And for me, actually did a pretty good job in the end. And I think he was quite harshly treated. Yes, he may not have appeased to everybody in terms of personality, but when you look at the football he was trying to get the team playing, it actually showed into fruition against Arsenal in that final. And compared to what we're doing right now, you can see he was a hell of a lot better. Obviously context, different circumstances apply. So with Pochettino, for me, then you go to PSG. Of course, he struggles with the egos. They don't press from the front like he would probably want them to. We know he plays a 4-2-3-1. He had Eriksen as a wide playmaker. He had Dele Alli as a second striker to Harry Kane. He had situations where he would sometimes be able to push someone into a back three. Wanyama he took from Southampton to Tottenham. And we've seen it even with Eric Dyer. Someone that's stepped into the back three and you could split the centre-backs and push Danny Rose and Kyle Walker forward, Luke Shaw, etc. And that was something that he could do. And he could, again, bring to us. We are used to playing a back three and obviously transitioning from a 4 to a 3. I do think Chelsea defensively could be, helped by playing in that back three, considering we don't have a natural DM. I do have concerns over who would actually be the person to drop in terms of from midfield into defence. Maybe it would have to be someone like a Trevor Chalobah. Would Zakaria be able to do that? Would they be press resistant with their back to play, receiving the ball from the centre backs? These are question marks that obviously would have to be there, but that is where the coaching element comes in. Who would he select to do that job? As the wide playmaker, who would he select to do that job? Ziyech is probably Chelsea's only quote unquote wide playmaker in terms of passing range. That would be maybe a role he could adopt. The other side, where the winger is more looking to directly make runs and beyond, you're looking at your Sterlings, your Mudryks, your Maduekes, all of these guys. But how he adapts and changes things, from Southampton to Tottenham to PSG to using Neymar's, Messi's, Mbappe's, we're never going to press from the front, etc. But, he wasn't the first manager to go there and struggle to get that team clicking and the politics around that club, etc. And he still won the league and the cup in the end. So for me, he would have learned from that experience. And that's the key here. The fact that he has that Premier League experience. If you're bringing in someone now, he knows this league like the back of his hand. And on top of that, he has now won trophies, whether you rate the trophies he's won or not, because of course you expect PSG to win the league, of course, but he's still got that success under his belt, and he would have had those learning curves to bring with him to Chelsea. And that's something that we would have said the same for Tuchel and other managers as well. Of course, he had the spells at Dortmund before that and Mainz. So that same elevation of Mainz to Dortmund to PSG to Southampton to Tottenham to PSG, that same elevation is what we're looking for. And that experience at a top club with high standards that demand the very best is something that we need again at this club, where a manager maybe he has that cushion, maybe he has that contract, but he feels a need to get results because it's kind of been ingrained in their brain already that there's a certain standard that has to be upheld and we must try and get those results any way, shape or form. And that's where the pragmatism comes in. He's more pragmatic, I feel, than someone like Enrique, and I feel like he can adjust his tactics in game depending on what the situation is. I remember a fantastic away performance from Tottenham against Juventus in the Champions League over 2 legs. En route to the final, he made specific, clear, critical changes at halftime to change the whole flow of that game, put the wing backs in, and bang, caught Juventus off guard, a Juventus team that were dominating Serie A at the time, and moved ahead with that. So for me, he's very overly criticised. Yes, there's the whole Tottenham element, but to be honest, again, I'm not really asked about that. I think for me, he would probably be interested in the job. I don't think there's that underlying love for Tottenham like there would maybe be an Espanyol. Yes, he's got a history of Tottenham, but it's all about what can he do for us. And I think he would command some respect 100% based on the fact that he's actually a very, very good coach. And of course, he's actually won stuff and managed top players already. And I don't think the egos at PSG are completely the same as the egos at Chelsea. I think the Neymars, the Mbappes, they're on another level. We do have a couple of egos, but they're a lot smaller and they're definitely manageable. And of course, this is a massive squad. It's still the same issues that we have till the rest of the season. So is he the guy to take over now, or is he the guy to take over in the summer? For me, he could do either or. He's shown that he can get teams out of a relegation battle, which is maybe what people will say we're in a jokey way. And of course, like I said, build from that thereafter. And I think in terms of what our existing structure is, in terms of we have a director of football, we want a collaborative environment, we want to bring in young players, we want them to be improved. Pochettino has shown that he can work in a very tight kind of knit board situation with Levy. He doesn't expect to splash and spend crazy money. So in fact, with what we're giving him, he'll probably be like, whoa, this is 10 times better than anything I've ever experienced in my life. Thank you so much. When can I get started? Do you know what I mean? This is crazy to him. And like I said, that Premier League experience for me is crucial. And that adaptability between formations. And like I said, I think there's certain players that he would really get a tune of. And specifically in the quotes as well, there's players that have said, Jack Cork, and others as well, and I'm going to get those quotes going in a scroll bar. He says that work rate is absolutely fundamental to what he does. Although he's inspired by Bielsa as well as, a little bit of possession and positional play, he wants his players to work incredibly hard. And I feel like Chelsea right now, it's become a little bit too laxy-daisy. It's become a little bit too free-flowy. It's become a little bit too whatever, wishy-washy. Pochettino works his players. They train like dogs. If you're going to cover the ground, if you're going to press relentlessly and be that, and Tuchel had us pressing much better than this. We don't press anymore. We have players that can press. We have engines. We have players that have good pressing ability, but we don't use them as such. We have tactical versatility in the team in terms of maybe Cucurella being an inverted fullback. We have an overlapping fullback in Chilwell who's very attacking. We have James who can do both. We have centre backs. We have a left-footed centre back now that could easily play on the left side of a back three, that could split. We have, a playmaker in midfield in Enzo who's got a nice long-range passing. We've got João, Mudryk, Sterling, great 1v1 wingers. We've got attributes, Madueke. We've got some really good players. We've got some really, really good players, people. And I think Pochettino, he's kind of like the in-between. Because I know everybody wants an elite manager to win now. And this is why I'll rule out the Jose Mourinhos, the Simeones, these kind of guys. Because I feel like they're too far on the other side of the spectrum. I feel like Pochettino is that really important middle ground that we will need to kind of understand the different personalities and maybe some of the softer players that are having confidence issues and bring them back up and be able to deal with that modern generation of player. Whereas the Simeone, listen, Felix just ran from him. That is an X, a red X. Absolutely no to Diego Simeone. That is criminal football. I've watched it many a time and it is borderline. It makes me heave. It's disgusting. I don't want him anywhere near. That he plays the type of football that you have to win immediately. And I mean everything. Clean sweep. Win all of the top titles. I'm not taking the Carabao and FA Cup under Simeone with the football I have to watch. I need titles and Champions Leagues. And I think, to be honest, his football's pretty outdated. And with the manager and caliber of manager we got in this league, he'd be eaten alive. Mourinho, again, for me, outdated. I think he's past his best. I think he's at his level currently. And again, like I said, that nostalgia, that coming home vibe, yes, it all sounds good in the initial phase, but for me, long term, when you're talking about developing young players, when you're talking about long-term strategy, is something he's never really accomplished. And like I said, in terms of youth development, for me, Pochettino is abundantly, emphatically clear. So is Luis Enrique, who is also on that bronze to silver to gold list. Zidane is unrealistic. He didn't spend this amount of time kind of wondering and wishing what job he would go for to then go to a Chelsea team mid-season, or even a Chelsea team at the end of the season that has sacked 2 managers in 1 year. He is very calculated and very specific with what he wants to go for. Maybe because he understands his own kryptonite. Maybe because he understands his own weakness. Yes, he's won Champions Leagues, but he's done it with a Real Madrid team ready to win immediately. He's not done a build. He's not done a process. He's not, coached young players everywhere and kind of brought them up and gone down between no, he's used that legendary status, kind of like a Pep, and gone straight into Barcelona, gone straight into Real Madrid and won immediately and worked from there. And obviously Pep is a fantastic coach. But yeah, for me, Zidane hasn't got the experience for what we're looking to do. He kind of is almost a cherry on top of the cake, and would be kind of perfect to manage the Drogbas, the Lampards, the Terrys. He would be a great manager to just come in with an already built squad that is elite and just ready to go. But we don't have that. Carlo Ancelotti, he, for me, is managing Real Madrid, and that's his last club that he's going to go to. I'm pretty sure that was reported, so that's unrealistic. And he's been linked to Brazil here and there, but he, for me, is not going anywhere after Real Madrid. He could even potentially retire. Tuchel, no point talking about it. The ownership already have ruled it out. So, I mean, they literally sacked him. So what's the point of even bothering trying to pretend like as if they're going to hire him again? There's just no chance. They can't work together, right? So despite the fact that he's an elite option, and to be honest, we've regressed, and we are regressing in quality without him in terms of the manager pool. He, for me, is a non-starter. And like I said, that I'm going to leave that third tier of managers that Christopher Vell could go and unearth, that I don't know about, I don't speak about, I can't endorse, I can't accept, because I don't know these guys. I need to be watching sporting games every week. I need to be watching Celtic games, and I don't. So I'm only speaking about managers where I've watched that Barcelona team that won those trophies back then, and the Spain team that he's managed. I've watched the Bayern Munich team that ripped us in our own backyard, won the treble, did brilliant things in that 2020 season, and obviously Pochettino, I mean, literally, he's been around for how long now? Still relatively young. Great age. So for me, Pochettino is my number one choice. I think he ticks a lot of boxes. Like I said, I think he's harshly criticized. He's a brilliant coach. He's a brilliant coach. Is he an elite manager? No. And the reason why I say that is because he's yet to prove that he can go and win loads and loads of trophies and get over that final hurdle. But it's not the first time a manager's come in here where they haven't got over that final hurdle elsewhere, but they've shown everything else, and then we have put them over that final hurdle. Now, of course, we've lost a lot of cups in a row, 5 Wembley defeats in a row. So, that will be of concern to people. Can he be the person to stop that rut? But I do believe that, we can do that with him. I do believe that he's the manager for me that would elevate this team and take us to that next step and put us on the cusp of being a top team. And then if for whatever reason he was a bit of a bottler, at least he took us to Champions League finals and he took us to second places in the Premier League. It's a massive improvement from where we currently are. And then you could potentially go and get your cherry on top of the cake. If in 3-4 years, Pochettino has coached the team, brought up those young players into a great level, like he's done with the examples I gave prior, and then those players are now ready to win and he's the bottler, then you could switch him out in 3 years. I would assume we would have won some cups at a bare minimum, and then you go and get your elite manager who's a manager, maybe not even a coach, a manager, and he can go and finish off the job. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Big up your damn selves, and I will see you guys in the next video. Let me know in the comments, smash up the like, subscribe if you haven't already. In a bit, people. Peace.